Good morning, Patriots, and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be short, clear, concise, but it will cover a very important moment in history and hopefully provide a great lesson for y'all on this beautiful day. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on those notifications so that way you'll know future videos, and keep supporting the brave Patriots down below. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started with an awesome word from our sponsor. Owned and operated by veterans, Freedom Hill Coffee Roasters create exquisite brews from select beans, offering a wide selection of roasts and merchandise. Apply Constitution Vet for a 10% discount on your next order. Freedom Hill Coffee Roasters, supporting noble causes and brewing excellent coffee for those who love God, family, and country. Christmas Eve, 1914, marked a very small moment in time where humanity prevailed, where peace existed, where three opposing armies, the British, the French, and the Germans, would stop firing, even just for a little bit, would come together on the battlefield and experience a peace, a truce, if you will, for a small moment in time. I'm talking about the Christmas Truce of 1914. A moment in time that is still questioned today. It did happen. We know it happened. What's being questioned is why it happened and what was the lasting impact it had. This video will do a very brief overview and then provide overall context to the story. Let's not forget, World War I started in the summer of 1914. That following Christmas, many soldiers, ranging from the age of 16 to 19 years old, thought the war would be over by then. No one knew the war would last for a few more years. All everyone knew on Christmas Eve of that night, British, French, and German soldiers in their trenches, all they knew was that we were freezing, we're cold, we're hungry, we are away from our families. So what are we going to do? We're going to stop firing, have a very brief ceasefire. We're going to write letters, we're going to decorate our own little trees, we're going to sing songs, and we're going to enjoy fellowship with our people. Now that was normal throughout World War I. As hellish as the trench environment was, you had a unique level of camaraderie between the soldiers who experienced trench warfare, which was absolute hell. Something happened, though, that was very different. On this moment, Christmas Eve of 1914, the British and the French heard the Germans singing Christmas songs. They could look over the parapet and they could see little trees decorated by the Germans. Then the British and the French started singing their own Christmas songs. Before you know it, communication started between both sides. And this was a normal thing. One side would talk to the other side, ask questions, or just shout out insults. Like, that was normal. But what was different, though, is that at some point, one of these soldiers, I forgot which one it was, whether it was German, French, or English, but one of the soldiers loved what they were hearing from the other side. And so that soldier grabbed some peace offerings, if you will, wine, cheese, jam, little trinkets. They came out of the trench with a white flag. They could have gotten shot, but they didn't. And so the other side did the same thing. The other soldiers started coming up out of the trenches with little things to exchange. And all of a sudden, within a span of an hour or so, you had these enlisted men meeting on this no man's land. Not fighting each other, exchanging gifts, talking smack to each other, One guy even brought out a soccer ball. Yes, and that actually happened. Not what we think of a soccer ball, but just a ball, a rubber ball, and they just kicked it around. And they had a game of football or soccer. This moment in time was not a standalone event. This actually happened a few weeks prior, all throughout the Western Front in World War One. There were small little moments where both sides had a ceasefire for whatever reason it was. But for this month of December, these ceasefires had a different meaning. They actually wanted to celebrate peace for a moment. They wanted to celebrate the one thing they had in common, which was Christmas. Now, of course, this Christmas truce didn't last long. The fellowship, the games, the gifts, all of that eventually had to come to an end. And these enlisted soldiers shook hands, went back to their trenches, and a couple days later they started firing again. This truce didn't happen again. The officers made sure of that. The kings and the politicians who were running this war did not want that to happen ever again. And so, what's really interesting about this, after December of 1914, you started seeing developments in the horrors of war. Trench warfare was already created, but then you had the creation of chemical warfare. You have advancements in military technology. You have brutal killings from all sides. World War I is a gray war because there really weren't good guys and bad guys. The lines weren't clearly defined between the villains and the heroes, like World War II was. World War I really was a horrible, tragic conflict. It lasted for 4 years. It didn't change anything, and yet it changed everything. World War I is a great testament to people who were told to fight. They were ordered by their commanding officers, you must fight these people. But the enlisted soldiers were like, no. but these people are just like me. Sure, they speak a different language. They have a different nationality, but they're just like me. Christmas Truce is evidence of that. You have these people who are told to kill each other, but they realize, hey, you don't have to do this. What's interesting about this historical event is that after this truce happened, military officers from all sides, the Germans, the French, and the British, all created policies that prohibited fraternization with the enemy. It stopped all forms of communication that existed before between both sides. And so, any sign of truce or any sign of peaceful talks or exchanges between the enemies was done. That was no longer allowed. Instead, you had massive slaughter. So, you can take that however you want to take it. But what's so interesting about this historical event is that, again, it represents a moment in time where human beings stop for a moment and they realize, hey, we're not that different. We're actually very similar. We can find common ground and we can move forward. So take this event and apply it to your life. Here's how you do it. In this time of the year, I'm sure you're going to meet people, or that you already know people, who you don't see eye to eye on. As I mentioned previously, you need to offer grace. But the way you do that is to start looking for common ground. Look at what the situation is. Build upon your similarities, find that common ground, and learn the gift of humanity. We're all broken. We're all equally sinful. We're all flawed. That's the first commonality. But use the Christmas Truce of 1914 to start building common ground with people that you know in your life that you've had problems with in the past or that you don't see eye to eye on. Use this moment to start working towards real progress. Not wokeness, that's not progress. actual progress where you and your enemy can have a seat at the table and share a cup of coffee and exchange commonalities and talk about what makes you happy. On that note, Patriots, that's all I got for today. I told you all it was short, but I wanted to get something out to y'all. Never surrender, never submit. This is Constitution Vet, signing out.